Okay, I hit live, so here we are. We are live. Welcome everyone to another podcast for Live Reality Games. Thank you for joining us on this afternoon on a Saturday. We are covering partial of a game called Survival Challenge. We are joined by three contestants today, Katelyn, Morgan, and Jake, who all had experiences on the show that was live streamed. It was fantastic to watch, and of course, episodes will be made coming out, and we'll hear more about the editor and the production in a little bit when they join. But let's start with some introductions. Katelyn, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Catch people up that are watching. Where are you from, and how far did you get? And of course, same thing with like a movie. You may know the ending of a movie, but you still want to watch it. And that's really what live reality games are. We'll get the episodes and we'll find out all the behind the scenes. So there may be spoilers, there will be spoilers, but still it's worth the watch to see all the little things that you missed. So Katelyn, where are you from and how far did you get?
I currently live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was the third boot, so that put me at 22nd place.
A little bit too early, would you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's always next time, right? Also joining us, Jake. Jake, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. A little bored, but great.
Little bored. This is what we're here for. So
this is my spice of the day.
Yeah, fantastic. Where are you from, and how far did you get?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I got 20th place.
Last but not least, we're also joined by Morgan. Where are you from, and how'd you do?
Well, hello, everybody. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was the second person voted out of the game, so 23rd place.
Hey, as a fellow second boot on a live reality game, like there's a second boot club, so welcome Morgan to that club.
Oh,
like it is prestigious to hold that position. For the people that are tuning in, if you have any questions for these contestants, please let us know. William is also joining us in the background. I see he's getting set up, so he'll be here from like the production side. He was the main filmer and can kind of fill us in on some of the behind the scenes. So just want to start generally. Let's go back to Katelyn. Katelyn, how did you find out about Survival Challenge?
So I am a close personal friend of Miss Hannah Fleming. Hannah and I know each other in real life because I used to live in Ohio where she lives. And we met through my sister, kind of. And she was the one that encouraged me to apply and then reapply when spots opened back up because I did not get cast in the original 2020 pool. And back this past February, she said there are some spots opened up just because of scheduling with people who were cast last year. Send another video in. So I did end up sending another video in and got a second go at an opportunity to come.
Okay, fantastic. Comment from the audience watching at home. Quick shout out for Travis. All three robbed.
A goofy guy through and through.
Travis, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, Morgan and Jake were both on my draft list, 1 and 2. So I feel like they were robbed as well. Katelyn, I'm sure too. Unfortunately, I didn't have the honor of drafting you on my team, but still, like Travis said, all three robbed. Jake, how did you find out about this experience?
So Dustyn, you know this, but the people out there, the viewers at large may not know that I was previously on a college survivor, Ohio State, Time and Change. And I infamously flopped at that one. But 2 people in production have also played. And, well, so I only know Sam and Greg. They both kind of helped take the Time and Change off the ground, whatever. And then Rachel played, but that was past my time, so I don't really know Rachel. But they played, talked highly about it. And I just haven't itched to play these types of games. And I was like, well, this sounds fun.
I'm trying to come back from that final position that you got. So,
and I haven't done it yet.
Not yet, but
not
yet is the key word there. So Morgan, welcome here as well. How did you find out about this like crazy game?
So I just stumbled across it on Facebook. The group popped up as a recommended group for me, and I found the page and was like, dang, this seems awesome. I had never heard of orgs or LRGs before. This was back at the beginning of 2020. So I had reached out and messaged somebody asking about applications. They had already closed applications for 2020. And then at the beginning of this year, when they said, we're not taking new applicants, we're just going to keep our same cast from last year, I thought I had missed out, but they had sent me a message and said, hey, we might have a few spots opening up, send us a video. And that's how I ended up playing this year. And I was really excited to get the opportunity. So
I'm excited that you heard about it from social media. As one of the people on the admin of the page, I guess I got you in, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to check back on the messages. Maybe I was the person who messaged you too. That's weird. That's a while ago. But also joining us today is William. William is on the production side and a fellow alumni. So everyone welcome William here.
Hey everyone.
Making an entrance.
Hello.
Great to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
So William, what was your thought about the whole Survival Challenge 2021?
About the theme or the opening, or what are we on now?
Especially the opening. We just did little introductions with the cast here, where they're from, and what's your take on these three?
Well, I thought the opening was interesting because this pertains to everyone, not just these three, but how we set up a one world twist and we were trying to let them figure it out. But in hindsight, maybe it would have been better just to tell them straight up, because they seem to be very acknowledging, but also resistant to the idea of a one world. You're all in the campsite, but let's burrito in our own segregated groups that we just randomly decided, which I thought was funny. I know that what was cool that we did this year is that we had the player intros both for the live stream, and we recorded that for our edit. And so I feel like I got to have a little bit of a better impression of everyone when we started the game. So that was really cool. And yeah, so it was really excited to see how many characters that we had going into here, and very interesting how we were just somewhat frustrated by how everyone was treating the twist, but also just we had fully prepared for them to act this way. We just weren't exactly expecting this one out of all of the options. So yeah.
Did any of the three of you know about One World before? Had you talked about this with the fellow contestants? Did anybody know of this One World twist?
No, going into it, they're not having any well, they can have all the expectations that they want, but they're giving no heads up as far as what to expect. I mean, my season, I was expecting swaps. For their season, they were expecting tribes. Neither happened on the first day, or in my case, it never happened at all. But yeah, so I think Survival Challenge likes to keep it a surprise for many. And in fact, many of the volunteers don't even know the main themes and twists that are happening until they're happening.
Even our live streamers too. There was one point where they separated in 3 tribes, and the people commenting through the Facebook message are where's the other one? Follow the other team. We were we only got 2 people on the ground, folks. So Morgan, did the thought of One World ever come up in your mind? You see everyone gathered around one fire pit. Was that a thought? Are you a Survivor junkie per se?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, so I know the concept of One World. I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like it was just pure chaos that first afternoon. Nobody had any idea what was going on. We were we feel like everybody's mad at us that we're not figuring out what we're supposed to do. We were all trying really hard. I can attest for that. Obviously, we were all sitting there at one camp, but there was no indication of, all right, this is where you are going to be staying, or this is not where you're going to be staying. So there was definitely conversation of, are these actually our tribes, or are we going to end up with different groups? Are we actually staying here all together tonight, or are they going to be moving us before the night is up? There was just so much uncertainty, and I feel like there was a lot of I don't want to say fear, but you don't want to be that one person that's leaving your tribe to go talk with the other people. So that was my take on it.
Were you in an initial group with either Katelyn or Jake?
Nope.
Nope. So on the other side of things, Jake, did you have that same fear in your first little pod of people?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, I was afraid that I was going to be like trying to stretch myself too thin, like because people were already noticing. Like Alex was just ping ponging, like going to see everyone. It's like I haven't met you yet, I haven't met you yet, and so like people were noticing that, and so I think a lot of us were trying to play it a little cool, talk to some people, but you eventually just kind of came back to your group. Like it just kind of all worked that way throughout the night, and like they had told us it was one world, and even at that point we were still playing it as kind of like a pseudo tribe because we had like our paper, and they were like, does anyone have any paper that they can give to the fire? And we're like, nope, we don't have anything, nothing. So like we were still bogarting our supplies even for this tribe that never happened. So I don't remember what the question was, to be honest with you.
Katelyn, similar question. Did you ever have the knowledge of like coming to your mind, oh, this is one world, and did you have a fear of like co-mingling with other groups of people?
I think we all like eventually landed on the fact that this were not going to be the official lines, but because of the uncertainty or fear of like, we're all here and it's a very large group of people, I think that there was the fear of like the bouncing around from person to person, especially if like you're like, I don't want to be the one person who looks like they're talking to everybody, because it was a very small area for 24 people. I didn't actually even introduce myself to all 24 people. I found out later. I woke up on Thursday morning and somebody said the name Jamie. I said, I'm sorry, there's a Jamie? Like it was a little bit overwhelming in that sense. And I think that we all just defaulted back to those 8, which for me was a little bit also frustrating because Jake was in my original 8 and we knew each other, and we didn't necessarily want to get put ourselves in a situation where somebody could pinpoint that, or because ideally we would have loved to work together more long-term than short-term.
Now, what's interesting is that one of the initial challenges you had is that you had questions about like, hey, who's like, how many mics is there in the group and stuff like that? And you guys were scrambling around to figure. And what was your impression on those types of questions where it was like, oh, these are like personal stuff?
I mean, I guess for me personally, like, I don't know, it felt like there was like the two sides to it. One of it is like, oh, maybe we should be working together. And the second part is, oh, we should not be helping them because we don't want them to get the advantage here, the up on us.
And it's funny, John kind of asked the similar question. If production would have told you that it was one world going into it, would you have still stayed in your little pods of 8? And like John said, as we kind of answered the question already, and the answer is no. You seem to be pretty solid in your group of 8. Katelyn, you bring up a good concept too. You mentioned that you and Jake kind of knew each other. Jake, did that cause concern when you got there, when you saw Katelyn come into because nobody knew who was coming per se, but you recognized people when you got there.
Right. Well, it just seemed like the dumbest luck that we got put on the first group together, and then I didn't pick what?
Not by choice, we didn't.
Not by choice.
Yeah.
And then the captain, when I was captain or whatever, and I was picking people, I was like, you're not picking Katelyn. You cannot pick Katelyn. She has to go somewhere else. And then she came home into my arms right where she belongs. And so it was relentless how much we kept getting it together in this game. And there are so many orc people in the game that I didn't necessarily know too many people, but I knew of I knew of Holly, I knew of Benji, and I just assumed there were more out there, and I was like, someone has to know we're together, and now we're always constantly together, joined at the hip. It's like frustrating. Yeah. But I was happy to play with Katelyn and be on the same side as Katelyn to an extent.
Yes, yeah.
So that was pretty similar for you, Katelyn. You were like, oh crap, like go away, go on the other side, and we'll work later together, but not now.
Yeah, and then there was the twofold of it when we actually did the like the schoolhouse or schoolyard pick for actual tribes. Because not only did I end up with Jake, who I knew, I also ended up with the one other person that I knew going into this. So I ended up on the same tribe as Jake and Benji, these two people who I've played online games with. And Benji and I had a very long-term emotional relationship in the game that we played together. And I was like, I felt like I had just gotten myself into a situation I didn't want to be in, because I know what kind of player Benji is, and he's a day one player. And I wasn't there on day one with Benji, and I knew that like our working relationship was going to look very differently if we like ended up in a spot like this.
Now, to catch a few of the viewers up at home, this cast was primarily cast in 2020. And of course, with every this did not happen. So production invited the majority of people back for 2021. And then during that time of quarantine, a lot of these online type games came out, and a lot of these people wanted to play the actual game in person, but they resorted to the online version, which is great in their own aspects. It's great to meet people. And so that's how a lot of people knew each other. Morgan, was that something you did during that time as well? Did you ever play an online game of this sort?
Yeah, I played a couple online games last year, but walking into Survival Challenge, I did not know anybody at all, which part of me, it's my naivety, is that I kind of assumed everybody else was in the same boat as me and not knowing anyone. So it's tough when you, at least for me, I didn't know anybody. I assumed everybody else was the same, but they're operating on a different playing field in a sense with that.
And then if 2020 just didn't go as it was, these two probably never would have known each other. Katelyn and Jake, did you know each other before the quarantine?
No.
The org I did where we first met, I only did because Survival Challenge was canceled for that summer. So, no.
William, from like behind the scenes, did you see that affect the majority of people where everyone was like, I know you, but I don't want to work with you?
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I remember Benji specifically going back and forth because he knew so many people, especially as someone who runs a fairly decent sized org. He was just like, I don't want to work with this person because I'm scared that they're going to like backstab me. But then at the same time, like there's a weird comfort of like having some familiarity with this person. I feel like I could talk to strategy with them sooner. So it's a very like damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And in my season, I knew people too, but I was very cautious about how to treat that. And I think I ping-ponged a little bit as well. You really never know because it all depends on the person. This person could be really excited. They're meeting you for the first time and they want to play with you and they want to game with you. And then there's other people who are just intimidated by the fact that they've seen you in action and they're scared about what you're going to do to them. And at the end of the day, Survivor is a game of trust. So just because you've played with a person before doesn't mean you trust them, and where your trust lies is depending on if you want to work with them or do you want to target them. But I think either way, what's interesting is that you feel obligated to make a quicker decision on that connection. If it's just some random person, you feel like, oh, I'm still getting to know them. Who knows? Maybe I will work with them, maybe I don't. But if you have a connection with them, you have this pressure that like, I need to figure out, am I targeting this person or I'm working against them? And I think you still have room to grow to get to know that person, but there's just this pressure of like, oh, wow, I can't believe I know someone in this game because this isn't like normal. And what's funny about this year is that in years past, we try to do our best of knowing what those connections are. And if the person does have connections, we'll put them on different tribes. This year, we didn't have that option because everyone chose their own team. So it was very, very interesting to see how those played out. And I think ultimately, looking back on it, I don't think the connections honestly had overall a huge impact on how everything played out, despite how many people were talking about it day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, that was a question that was brought up for the reunion show. Anybody that hasn't watched the live stream or wants to catch back on the other episodes, make sure you visit facebook.com/survival challenge. All the episodes are live streamed right there. And by episodes, it's just the live stream. We have real episodes coming up sometime. William, tell us a little bit about the episodes and maybe when they're going to hit. the air.
So yeah, we're going to be making an announcement soon, and I'm really, really excited because we had our largest team yet dedicated to the film crew. We had myself, we had Hannah returning to help film out. She played season 6. We had John Becker, who is related to Jordan, who hosts the location of Survival Challenge. We also had 2 new film crew people join us. We had Brendan from season 7 help out, as well as Amanda from season 4 help out. So we saw a couple new faces, but a much larger team. And we even rented equipment from Lens Rentals, and we've had a sponsorship deal with them. And I'll also be talking about that more soon. But it allowed us to not only get much better coverage of everything, but allow us to do things like film in 4K and film with much better audio, because we're not relying on the scraps of what film equipment we have lying around. So we are very, very excited to show you guys the full episodes, as it's really going to feel like it's on a whole nother level than we've ever been before, and possibly any other LRG before.
Mm-hmm. And we're excited too. Typically, we cover these shows and have a little sit down afterwards. And Will, you do a little bit of a interview podcast too with the contestants of Survival Challenge, right?
Yeah, I do. I host a podcast called Behind the Player, where I'm joined by one of the other members of production, being John Vatea, Andy, Michael, and Ryan. And we just kind of have sit down. And the main purpose of that one is to really get into their strategic and social game, to figure out, okay, we realize that as a film team, we do our best to capture anything, but there's a lot of things that kind of gets missed. So we want to hear from them just individually what their plan was and how everything worked it out. And looking back, how maybe they would have changed things, or how they interpret things, now that the dust is settled. But also it's great because coming into this year, we only started doing the podcast during the pandemic as a way to kind of generate some new content. And I found that most of the people that I talked to who were casted for this season were saying that like, oh, you're Will from the podcast, and like I listened to all the episodes, and like there were so many people who said like they binged all the episodes, which is crazy, by the way, because most of them are at least 2.5 hours. So when they say they binged all the episodes, we're talking like 80 plus hours of content that they've just went through. I'm just like, goodness. But it was so cool to see players giving their layout of their game, and then also passing on knowledge for future players. And this was the first season that we got to see that in action. And I look forward to passing that torch on to the next season here, so you guys can do the same for the season 9 crew.
Now, William brings up a good point about strategy and coming in with a plan. Morgan, what did you have coming in to Survival Challenge 2021? What was your idea of what you were going to do?
So I felt like I wanted to kind of just lay low, which I also think was kind of my downfall maybe in the end. You don't realize how fast paced the game is going to be once it starts going. I didn't want to stand out in any way. I just wanted to build good relationships with people on my tribe, and maybe make 1 or 2 really close ally relationships, but not try to take charge of anything necessarily. And then if I had progressed further, then maybe start trying to orchestrate some different things. But
you talk about maybe an alliance with like 1 or 2 people. Who did you connect with real quick, either on your team or maybe that got swapped to another team? Because it was initially like a one world thing. Who did you connect with right away?
So Landon was definitely my closest ally in the game. He and I connected right away on day 1. I could just sense, even from the very first challenge that we were doing together, that he just had a good energy, and I really felt like we would have a great working relationship. And to me, I feel like that's really important to go far into the game, is to have somebody that you feel like you can truly bounce ideas off of and work strategically together. So he was definitely my closest ally. Things kind of changed throughout, I guess, after the reward day and we were in our actual tribes. I really bonded with Jamie. in the second day. And I felt like probably those two guys were my closest allies. They were the two that didn't vote me out of my tribe. So that was cool, I guess.
Morgan brings up the point that this is a lot quicker than a lot of people think, bonding-wise. And Jake, you played Survivor Time and Change, which is based in Ohio State at the college. How was this different than a 90 or even 100-day game? Survival Challenge over an extended weekend, pretty much, and your college experience of Survivor.
Right. No, it was definitely something that was like a huge shift and something that I don't think I adapted to too well at this game. I feel like the reason I got burned was because I didn't put enough work in the longer stretches. You know, you have these random moments of like 6 hours, 8 hours when you're going to bed where you don't have to do anything. You're not going back and forth. And I was having a headache the first day of the newly formed tribe. So like I wasn't reaching out as much as I should have. And then when it counted in these little 5-minute moments you have between challenge and tribal, I just didn't do enough to be aggressive with that little time. You know, I kind of just sat there and the majority 5 went over there to the side. And then me and Holly just kind of sat there and twiddled our thumbs for 3 or 4 minutes. And then they told us that they were ready. And then we walked over there and like, that was it. So I don't think I was aggressive enough in those moments to actually create any change from the night before when people had more time. So I don't think I adapted too well to that format, but you know, learning experience, we'll call it, for the next mini.
Molly has a nice comment here. She wants to smile at Jake and Katelyn. Molly, another live reality gamer playing in Survivor Boston. Another fantastic show to watch. Besides, after you're caught up with all the episodes of Survival Challenge, maybe take a venture over to one of the college survivors too. Boston is a great one, and Time and Change is also really great, as well as many others out there. So, Katelyn, you played some games online and stuff. How did your online experience adapt to a in-person game?
Well, I guess I didn't really adapt well, because with the online games in the formats that I've played are long-term games, and so the pacing is very differently. You're kind of sitting back and building those relationships and those bonds and kind of adjusting day to day, whereas you can't really adjust day to day in Survival Challenge. You have to adjust 10 minutes to 10 minutes, and I don't think that I like kind of a combination of Morgan and Jake is like I don't think that I adapted very well to it. I also wanted to lay back and not be a decision maker in the beginning, because that's been a downfall of mine in like org scenarios, because I come on a little bit too strong sometimes because that's just who I am. And so the skill sets didn't really adapt well, but it was definitely a learning experience because the pacing is very, very different from what I have experienced.
Now, a huge difference in Survival Challenge and many like online versions too. It's the fact that challenges are different. We'll share my screen right here. Here's an opening challenge from the reward day. Everyone is working together, holding these giant like wood pieces up. This photo, as you see, is courtesy of Jeremiah, and he does a great job with photography. Katelyn, how was it experiencing a live challenge like this, where people are literally holding you up on like 6 feet up in the air?
This was literally my favorite challenge of the entire weekend. I walked into that challenge area and saw the puzzle frame hanging from the post, and I literally started bouncing on my feet because I was so excited. And then I got really lucky that our blind draw, I ended up with 5 guys. So I was literally the only girl on my team. So I felt confident enough of being the person up on the podium, and I felt confident about the puzzle part of it, and it was a little bit difficult. Like we were slow coming out of the gate. We had like the 2 teams that you see to the left of where my position is, because I'm at the bottom, I'm at that closest group. They had already started on their puzzle by the time we got to our puzzle like pieces and tying it down, and and like the adrenaline is like, I did not know where we were in that, like how far behind we were from getting from the starting point to starting the puzzle until it was all over, because it literally happened so fast. Like once we got those puzzle pieces down and started putting them on the frame, it just was like there was this weird synergy with the group of the 6 of us, where it was like puzzle pieces were just going in and hands were holding the pieces together and everybody was like, oh, this one fits, and it's really, really exhilarating.
What's it like, going from an online challenge, right, where you used to just like, oh, it's a cute little puzzle, or like doing this, and then it's just like, no, if we mess up, this person could fall from this like 8-foot post and seriously get hurt. Like, how does that change the dynamic of doing a challenge?
I mean, the stakes are higher, I guess, because of like the physicality of it, but I don't know. That's always been something that like a type of challenge that I've seen on Survivor proper that I'm just like, oh, I want to do that. And the fact that we got it translated and a little bit differently, because usually they do it in the water on the proper show proper. And, but I don't know. I like doing the challenges kind of regardless of what the format is.
Now, besides challenges too, we're also experiencing twists. And one of the twists after the reward time was team captains. Jake, you get the lucky draw here. You
look so happy.
No.
I even tried to go back to the live stream. Jake, you don't seem very happy about being a team captain here in general. No. What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, just as a little note, one of the reward challenges earlier in the day, there was an advantage where basically it said you could get some sway in helping create the tribe swap, basically. So we assumed it was like, after the fact, I assumed it could be the team captain. And I was like, I don't want to look for this advantage. I don't want to be the team captain. And then I draw the team captain and I don't know what to do. And this could be, my great downfall of the game. Who knows? But I chose Kevin because we had worked together previously in the tribe. I was trying to show that I was branching out to the other groups from day one. Like I was trying to do that. And then it ended up putting me in a minority because they just went boom, 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 boom. A little bit of old blue with Katelyn and Holly, and then back to original yellow or red, whatever they were. So, I mean, I feel like that could be looked at as one mistake of my game, that I didn't pick an original blue to start. But Kelsey was also a team captain, so we would have just kind of been splitting blue at that point too. So I don't know. I was not very happy with it. I didn't like it. Luckily, I only had to pick one. That was one positive. I only picked one, and then I just walked 100 yards away, left it to them. I didn't have to do the whole thing. That would have been a lot of pressure.
Morgan, you talked about your relationship being with Landon primarily, like he was the one you're working with. He ended up choosing you, looking back at this thing. Was that something you had built your alliance with prior, or did that really instigate you working with Landon in the future by him picking you?
No, I had already created a tight bond with Landon. So I was happy that he chose me. I was just kind of confirmation that we did want to work together in the game. And then, so I was the third person picked onto my tribe. And I went the opposite route of Jake and chose somebody from my original group because I felt like we did want to have the majority. Little did I know that everybody else would follow suit and we would have 7 from our original group of 8.
And Stu.
Poor Stu. Literally when the tribes were created, I was like, wow, my heart just sank for him because I can just imagine being in his position, and that's tough. But
why did you choose Katie first?
So I think I just had developed a good relationship with Katie, and I felt like she's somebody that I would have felt good working with. And again, it was just basically choosing somebody from my original group of 8, and there were already 3 of us chosen. So looking back, I probably would have liked to see some more variety in our tribe. And I feel like Survivor is just a game of woulda, coulda, shoulda. all the way through. But it would have been interesting to see how the game would have shaken out if any of us had chosen somebody different.
Yeah. Speaking of the one that was left out and not a part of the original team, Stu says icons, all three of you. So
shout out to Stu. He's the
Love
best.
Stu.
Now, speaking of tribes, you all ended up in tribes. We have two of the original Fala. And remind me, Morgan, what was your team name again?
I think it's supposed to be pronounced Halota.
Okay, we had a lot of discussion about that. So
yes, it has kind of evolved throughout the course of time.
I believe the viewer chat really ended up on whole lotta. So we made a whole lot of drama and a whole lot of like strategy. So
we were a whole lot of something. I don't know, but
Katelyn and Jake, if you could describe your tribe as a whole lot of something, what would you say yours would be?
A whole lot of snakes, monsters, devils, evil beings, creatures.
I was about to say a whole lot of really nice people.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Like it really truly was, I think, a really great group of people, which I think that they had a very difficult time like voting me out, voting Jake out. Like I don't think any one of us in that group wanted to do those things. Like we did have a really good camaraderie first night at Fala. But yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Hey, the whole final three in that original tribe right there. So
that's very true. Tiffany is also joining us. She is dying from the humor hit going on. I'm curious, was it the same thing for the whole lot of tribe, Morgan? Were you a lot of like kumbaya, kind of getting together, kind of hanging out, or is it a little bit more rough around the edges?
I felt like when we were in camp, it was a lot of fun. We got along great. I feel like my favorite moments from the whole experience was being back at camp with Halota, and like we busted our butts to get this fire going. We were able to actually cook rice on the fire, and we're just sitting in the pitch black eating our rice with a stick. And I don't know, it was a lot of fun. It wasn't the drama until Friday, I think. Because once the immunity challenges started, it was just like bang, bang, bang. And I know we mentioned it earlier, but I mean, there's just no time to breathe, especially when you have to go to back-to-back tribal councils. It's just challenge, vote somebody out, then go straight back to a challenge, and then vote somebody out. There's not that chance to kind of regroup, decompress, get everybody somewhat back on the same page. So I think it just was kind of this buildup of the stress of voting people out.
As someone who also was in a tribe who went to back-to-back initial tribal councils, I can say it was rough. And like it really takes your emotions to a whole new place. You know, it kind of like, it's funny how, you know, you start off with these reward challenges and it kind of lulls you into like, hey, these challenges are fun, you know, and there's not a whole lot of consequences. Like, sure, we get less challenge bucks or whatever, but you know, we're all still here. We're all still family, having a good time. And then when it kicks into Friday, man, now it just takes on a whole different tone. And like losing and winning, like literally feels like your life at stake. And it is a feeling that I can't compare to anything else I've experienced. But yeah, Friday changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100%. When you go out to compete in the immunity challenge, you're like, okay, my life is on the line. And it is like pure adrenaline and almost this panic of we have to win this. So I was devastated that we had to go to the first two tribal councils back to back, even before I knew I was going to be getting voted out.
You talked about rough times, voting people out. Another rough time a lot of people look back on is the outdoor conditions. Here's a little sneak peek of what their camp life was. And honestly, these are what the episodes 2 really dive into. The producers and everything really go and show you how rough it is out there. Jake, what was your experience surviving out in the wilderness like that?
So I was only out for 2 nights, and the nights are really, at least when I was there, were just the worst because you don't have as much to focus on. You're just kind of dwelling on the fact like, oh my God, it's just raining on me right now. And our rain on the first night was nothing to compare with what they had the other nights. But first night was a lot worse. Second night actually was pretty good with Thala. We had a fire going. You know, it kind of worked out. Like when the fire was dying, someone would wake up, they would fix it. So we had fire all through the night. We were a little cold, but ultimately, like that night was fine. That first night, it was, I thought, just going to set a precedent of how awful it would be. And it kind of did, but not for me so much. It was just for the people that stayed in the game. But yeah, I mean, it truly is just demoralizing at times, but you're also proud of yourself because you're pushing yourself. Because I haven't been camping in years. It's been so long since I've camped, and never with these bare conditions. So we were picking blackberries off bushes, you know, like we were scavenging, we were taking what we could. So I don't know, it was a cool experience, and I definitely did better than I thought I would, especially given the weather conditions that, you know, happened for a lot of the game.
Kelsey's here in the comments, actually. I don't remember, did I bring this up yet?
No, you didn't.
Jake is such a goofball. I was in my mind. I was like, I gotta get to Kelsey, but
She's
Katelyn,
just desperate to get some attention on our podcast, on our video. Kelsey has to come in.
well, that means you're gonna have to get some attention about her podcast when it comes up, right?
Maybe right.
Katelyn, was that something similar that you went through? How did you handle the rough conditions and maybe like the limited food out there?
Yeah, like Jake said, the first night was definitely the worst of the 2 nights, and I can't even imagine being out there on Friday night, like what they went through, being literally like pulled inside because of the weather. Like that's insane. But like the first night, we our original group, whatever that original blue group, we ended up moving our tarp under the trees. The other two groups,
it's ours, dibs, we called it.
Yeah, the other two groups kind of stayed more out in the open, where like right around the fire pit, which we didn't have fire because we did not try to start fire until it was a little too late in the day, and so therefore we never ended up getting it started. So the 8 of us from that original blue group ended up pulling our tarp under the tree coverage, which I think helped. I do think that we weren't getting as much of the rain on us, but it was cold and wet, and I was lucky enough, I was sleeping next to Big Jake, Jake S, because he was much larger than me, and so we were just snuggling most of the night, so he helped keep me warm. And then I had poor, sweet tiny Chris on the other side of me, who is not a very, like, I felt bad because I was like you can cuddle with me, it's okay. But then that second night at Follow was definitely fine. We'd be having fire all night was really nice. It was warmer. I think I got more sleep than I did the first night because there were longer periods of time where I was able to let my body shut down for a few minutes. And like Jake said, we like almost started working in shifts. There was one point, a long stretch of night where, sorry, I was reading the comment that popped up.
So yeah, we'll get to that comment here. I'm not a beacon of warmth. It doesn't sound like that, Chris.
No, you were, the fact that I had 2 people next to me that were willing to like touch me is fine. Cause like, it's sleeping with strangers. And there was at one point I was like, please nobody tell my husband. But it was all in good humor. And, but yeah, and back to the fall night, we did kind of end up taking shifts on the fire. At one point, Jake and I were like just awake together and letting the people who had been working on the fire most of the early part of the night sleep. And we were literally walking around in the dark trying to find firewood.
I thought it was Megan for like the first half hour. I was like, wait, Katelyn? I thought this was Megan.
Yeah.
We just weren't talking for the first bit of it. We were just moving around like so tired and like zombies.
And we didn't have enough wood for the whole night. So we were literally walking around the campsite, just like seeing what our foot hit. Like, are there branches underneath our feet? Let's grab those. So.
Morgan, was that kind of similar at your campsite too? Everyone taking turns on the fire, or was there a specific person in charge of the fire?
So we did not have fire the whole night.
Oh.
We stopped looking for firewood once it got too dark to be walking around, I guess. But as far as who was in charge of the fire, Jamie definitely got the fire going and was constantly like, guys, you got to go get more wood. He was like keeping us going with it.
It sounds like it kind of fell off after a while.
Yeah. So it was actually quite cold for me Thursday night. It got to the point where it's like, I just cannot lay on this cold ground anymore. Like I would rather just stand and not sleep than lay here and literally just shiver so much. So I actually feel like I got more sleep the first night than I did the second night, despite the rain the first night.
So there's the survival part of the experience, but also Survival Challenge is just a show in itself. So what was your experience with like seeing John like talk to you and not like just watching him online, doing your own confessionals, and there being tribal handlers and film people all around? Like, what was your like thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, so it was weird not being in control of the camera during strategy stuff, because in Time and Change, like, you would have to record yourself doing confessionals, and online games you record yourself doing confessionals. So like it was a little bit weird at times when it was just like the downtime. I felt like I was looking at the camera way too much because I just, you know, I see a camera, I perform, you know how it is. So I that was an adjustment, because I was like, wait, you need to probably stop looking at the camera so this actually makes the edit, and they don't just have like 28 minutes of you smiling at the camera.
Which was called out in the live stream too. It kept panning to the tribe, and they're like, "Oh, Jake has something to say." Oh, Jake had making a face at this, like, "Oh, what's Jake thinking?" Like, I'm like, probably nothing. It's okay.
No, probably it's nothing going
camera
on up here. It's just expressive. That's it. It's just expressive.
Katelyn, did you feel the same way about like production being there and like in your face, almost kind of like trying to capture everything?
I didn't mind so much. I tried. I mean, like, I definitely was breaking the fourth wall too much, and like anytime Brendan like passed us, I was like, "What's up?" But like, it was fine. It was the one part. It was like Hannah was behind the camera, and I told Hannah before we went out, I was like, "You don't know me until I get voted out." So it was like difficult to like not make eye contact with her, because she was behind the. I just like, I didn't want there to be any connection with me and the person on production behind the camera.
Morgan, was it weird talking to somebody about like your inner thoughts? But like, oh, who do you want to vote out? Like, what do you mean by that? Who's suspicious?
I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's really helpful to have somebody ask you questions to process your game as it's happening, because there is so much going on. So when you get those questions, you can really reflect and think about, okay, what do I actually think about how the game is going? What's my plan moving forward? So I always look forward to the confessionals, and it was always fun trying to predict when production was going to show up to our camp. And, you know, you have no concept of time, right? So you wake up basically when there's just the tiniest little bit of light, and for all we know, it could have been 5 o'clock in the morning. And then you're just up waiting for hours for people to show up and take you to your activities for the day. But yeah, it was great.
What was the biggest thing like after you got voted out? Like, what were you like, I need a cheeseburger, or like, what was your biggest craving?
Surprisingly, I did not feel like starving when I got voted out. I went and had lunch with the rest of production. I think there were like sandwich stuff there. So, I mean, that was good. And it was good to actually eat real food. But there wasn't anything that I was dying for, which actually surprised me. I know, I guess it was only about 48 hours that I was surviving, but I I didn't feel super drained or anything.
Some people really say like, oh, I just needed to call home to my husband. I needed to talk to my kids, or maybe just the sound of music. Did you miss anything even in that short time?
Obviously it's great to talk to the people in your real life, right? And touch base with them. Probably for me, honestly, it was like I wanted to go get coffee.
Katelyn, what did you miss most living out in the woods that you were like, I got to get this when I get out?
A Diet Coke.
And Jake?
My mom had one for me when I right after I put it out.
Oh, she knew you so well.
I just wanted to be dry. Like, I feel like, you know, Kathy was there kind of sharing the same story, but I truly just wanted to be like dry, comfortable. You know, lay down in a bed sounded beautiful. That was the big thing. It was like I was tired of laying on the ground. You know, I have a bad back, so it was
Not
very.
this
That became a big narrative on our original group. My back, but I was excited just the thought of like sleeping on a bed. Like that sounded beautiful.
Now, speaking of narratives, like Morgan, how would you describe your experience? Because we actually have the editor right here with us too. Like, what do you want your story to be, or what did you gain from this?
I think when I look back on it, the biggest thing is that it made my love of the game grow even more. It's just a really cool experience to be with so many people that come from all over the country, that have totally different backgrounds, different walks of life, that all share this love of the game of Survivor. And everybody is just a true competitor. Everybody showed up with their whole heart and mind to give it everything that they had. And that's just a really unique thing. And I loved every second of being there, being in the game. Even after my time in the game was over, I loved watching the rest of the game unfold. And I made just as many fun memories after the game, after my time in the game, I guess, as I did during the game. I think I learned about myself and just how kind of like my default setting, right? When you're in these experiences, you go back to who you are at your core. So it's just interesting to reflect on that and learn how people perceive you when they've never met you before and know nothing about you.
Katelyn, what do you want to say about your either your game or your story from this experience?
For me, it's difficult because I think that I'm still navigating the feelings. I don't want to cry. I did not play well, and I'm like painfully aware of what went wrong, and that's like what makes it harder. But the overall experience it's incredible. The hugs that I got from like Stu and Morgan after I got voted out were some of my favorite, like most intimate moments of the weekend. You know, like those things are really touching things that you'll kind of carry with you, that I will carry with me. But like when it comes to the game, like I still feel very complicated about it because like I felt like I could have done better and I got hung up on these things and I made the mistakes and that I did, and I'm aware of all of those things, which like makes it even more difficult to deal with. And I'm hoping that like I can eventually feel better about that part of it, because that it was such a big part of the whole overall experience is playing the game. But I tried to focus on the great memories of the people that I got to meet and the watching the game unfold, because it is such a cool, unique experience that is the closest thing that I might ever come to the real thing, which is something that I always kind of dreamed about. So, yeah.
Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say like my narrative in game what it is, just because of, you know, our time in the game was cut short a little bit. You know, I didn't feel well. I didn't have as much agency when the actual tribe formed together. Like, I didn't get to actually have many moments of strategy or control. Like, I was just throwing my vote the first time we went to tribal because I thought for sure I was going home. Like, I didn't care. So, like, it was like I didn't get to actually put, the skills that I like to, I like to think I have into this game. So that's what I would like to echo Katelyn's frustrations, but I mean, it happens. People have to go home first, or whatever order. But I would just say again, that experience, like they've been saying, like it truly was just so much fun. Like I loved going to Chicks with my pre-jury every night, Chicks on the Square. Like, I mean, through it all, like whether I was in game or out of game, it was just such a fun time. Learned a lot about your ability to survive or whatever. But yeah, it was just a good experience, and I don't know if I have a fun, cool narrative outside of me and Katelyn knowing each other, but I think it was just a cool experience. So,
well, as someone who was also a Friday Boo in my season, I can definitely agree with all of your sentiments. But just also something for you guys to remember as you process things, because I think you're already probably being a little bit surprised, like, wow, I'm still thinking about this thing that happened like a few weeks ago, and it's going to just continue going on, and your thoughts on it are always going to change. But as you're processing it, remember that literally every single person in the game has their almost their what ifs, but also just like, oh, I should have done better, because either you went home really early, or you went home right before the merge, or you didn't get very far in the merge, or you were just so close to winning. Even the winner feels responsible for what happened in the game, and even though they don't have any regrets about how they did in the game, they look at all the people who are disappointed in their experience, seeing that they are the one that came out on top, and they feel like, well, I wish I could have changed some things for my allies that happened in the game so they could have a better experience. Everyone has those things and those doubts.
Are you listening, Kevin? Are you listening to what he said about how you voted out me and Katelyn? Are you listening?
Yeah, so everyone shares your sentiment in a similar level, and we're all in this together. And I think the most important thing, as we've been saying, is just the experience and the memories that we create both in and out of the game is, the thing that we'll take with us and remember the most fondly.
You are so encouraging, William. I remember when I had literally just gotten voted out, and I'm just standing there outside of a tribal council with my calming mint, just not feeling very calm. And you're just saying so many nice things, and so you're a good encourager.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being here today and sharing your stories and your experiences. Katelyn, Jake, and Morgan, thank you for joining. And William, thank you for being here. William will be here for multiple of these iterations of this. We're going to try to get to everyone over the next few weeks and talk to everyone about their stories. And of course, we're always going to be looking forward to the episodes when they do come out. Quick shout out to the people. Katelyn?
I will get harassed if I don't. We did not end up getting to shout out Grace, so I'm going to also shout out Grace because we shouted out Kelsey. Jake and I were harassed about getting a shout out, so I just want to get that in there.
I didn't see anything about Grace's comment. Like, Grace, I didn't see a comment. Shout out to the people that did leave comments. So Grace, maybe next time, okay? We got Travis. John Matea himself was here. Molly, Stu, Tiffany, Kelsey, and Riz, thank you. Thank you for being live with us and asking questions as they do come in. Audience, great to have you. And of course, for everyone watching at home, make sure you leave comments here. If you have questions specifically geared towards Katelyn, Jake, Morgan, this kind of thing, let us know. They'll be watching this and commenting back. And of course, we have the whole cast to get to as well. So we really thank you for watching here at facebook.com/live reality games, either on YouTube/live reality games, or anywhere that you get your podcast. Hannah is amazing at this podcasting thing. She puts it in podcast world. I like to say it's the magic. I have no idea how it happens. Magic, people. And of course, anything for Survival Challenge, please head over to their Facebook page, facebook.com/survival challenge, or look at the episodes on Facebook, and of course, Behind the Player when those come out. Thank you, everyone, once again. Next week, we have some schedule. Monday, we have Jamie and Stu at 8. I think we have Pat, Maddie, Katie, Landon, all on next Wednesday, hopefully. Still pending exact times and everything. And then we have the winner, Kevin, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Still pending few things with the four that I mentioned prior, but Kevin is set in stone for that 6 o'clock spot. So until then, folks, we'll see you in the lives, and we'll see you later.